What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Much love to you guys. Namaste, namaskaram, Ramji, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. I'm gonna check this video on the Indian economy. Is the Indian economy the next big shot? I would say that it's heading towards that direction, but let's see what this video is all about and what it has to say. Tell me what you guys think in the comment section down below. I would love to know your thoughts on this and what you think, and what has to be done for India to move, and grow bigger and bigger and better. Let's go. Global economics.
This is India,
Let's see.
the land of culture, tradition, and also one of the oldest civilizations in the world. Today India is a rising, as well as a struggling economy. Yet many economists believe, in the future India is going to contribute a much larger portion in the world economy, and might get near the ranks of China. Well, in our opinion, first let's see what India is in terms of economics. So historically, India was an economic giant. By 1700, Mughal India had become the world's largest economy, ahead of China and Western Europe. The subcontinent contained approximately 24.2% of the global population, while producing about a quarter of world's output. This was because, at that time the world economy was dependent on agriculture. And India was one of the biggest producers. But after the Industrial Revolution in Europe, and subsequent colonization of India, the economy saw a major decline. It is estimated that Britishers extracted about $45 trillion from India. According to a British economist named Angus Maddison, India's share in the world economy went from 24.4% in 1700 to 4.2% in 1950.
Damn, that's a lot.
In 1947,
That's a lot.
after 200 years of British rule, India gained their independence. And this is where the story of modern India started. After gaining independence from Britain, they formed a centrally planned economy. In this, the government made majority of economic decisions regarding the manufacturing and the distribution of products. The government focused on developing its heavy industry sector, and it worked for some decades. But then in the 90s, the Indian economy started to suffer. And this was due to two major reasons. First was the fall of USSR, which was India's largest trading partner. And second were the high oil prices due to the Gulf War. To get out of this situation, India asked the help of the International Monetary Fund. The IMF agreed to help, but only if the country agrees to deregulate and open up their economy for world trade. This was the start of a new chapter for the Indian economy. In 1991, India began to loosen its economic restrictions and started to increase liberalization. This led to growth in country's private sector. Today, India is considered a mixed economy. However, in certain areas such as defense, power, banking, and other industries, the government maintains a monopoly. After the economic reforms, the country's economy has grown exponentially. If you call for the numbers, it grew from $288 billion in 1992 to $2.9 trillion in 2019.
I think that's
The
fair,
reforms helped the country to shift
fair.
from an agriculture-based economy to industrial and service-based economy. While the share of other sectors in the GDP increased, the share of agriculture has fallen to 16% of the country's GDP, as of 2019. Apart from the economic shift, this could also be because the agricultural industry in India faces some challenges. The industry is not as efficient as it should be. You see, nearly 50% of the country's workforce works in this sector, still the output is not as expected. Also, the reliance on
50%.
monsoons for the water needs in crop production is very high. And if you see the agricultural infrastructure, it is also not well developed, hence the produce is at the risk of spoilage due to lack of adequate storage facilities and distribution channels. Still, India is a leading producer of wheat, rice, sugarcane, cotton, mangoes, and much more. Now coming to the industrial sector, it accounts for 26% of GDP and employs 22% of the total workforce. According to the World Bank, India's industrial manufacturing GDP output in 2015 was sixth largest in the world on the current US dollar basis. In this sector, chemicals is a big business in India. The petrochemical industry, which first entered the Indian industrial scene in the 1970s, experienced rapid growth in the 80s and 90s. In addition to chemicals, the country produces a large supply of the world's pharmaceuticals, as well as billions of dollars worth of cars, bikes, tools, tractors, machinery, and also forged steel. Now heading to the major sector of the economy. Yes, it is the services sector. Over the past 60 years, the service industry in India has increased from fraction of the GDP to approximately 56% between 2019 and 2020. This growth is a result of India's huge population of skilled, English-speaking, and educated people. Among services industries in the country, telecommunications, IT, software, and BPO are leading. Specifically, the business process outsourcing, or BPO, is a well-known industry here. BPOs are the fastest growing segment of the ITES industry in India. Thanks to economics of scale, cost advantages, risk mitigation, and competency. This makes the service sector the backbone of Indian economy. But even after this massive growth in the last 2 decades, India is still struggling through many fundamental problems.
That's the question. Why?
India's big young population is giving a great advantage to country's economic growth by creating huge domestic demand for goods. And this population is still growing. It is estimated that India will surpass China's population somewhere between 2025 to 2030. As it is a good thing for the economy, it is also creating a huge problem for the country. As the population of India is growing, it leads to problems that include food deficits, sanitation deterioration, and pollution.
Exactly.
So even though economic growth numbers look promising, the living standards of most citizens are not changing. Also, the government is struggling to provide social security and other facilities, because more than 90% of India's total workforce is working in the informal sector. Hence, this also makes tax collection and regulation very hard for the government. Another challenge is, the country is struggling to improve its deteriorating infrastructure in business, education, and healthcare. Also, India's power grid is overstressed, and power failures occur in many parts of the country, which is hurting many industries and businesses. Plus, the public transportation and roadways have not kept pace with the population and economic growth of the country. Next is corruption, which is still a big problem here. India was ranked 80th out of 180 countries in 2019 for corruption. And doing business in a corrupt country is surely difficult, as there is little respect for the rule of law. This is one of the main reasons why foreign companies hesitate to invest in India. Also, due to high levels of bureaucracy, harsh labor laws, and corruption, India loses its competitiveness in the international market. Well, like every other developing country, India also has numerous problems. Yet from the last few years we have been seeing improvements in some areas. However, achieving results will take time. The improvements will help the government to expand the formal sector of the economy. For that, the government needs to create more jobs by attracting more FDIs. Similar to what China did a few decades ago. Another way to do that is to create a large number of labor-intensive industries. These industries require a large number of skilled and unskilled labor, which India has plenty. These industries will create a large number of jobs, and it will help to grow the middle income class in the country. Now we know that India's economy is struggling. But we cannot deny that they are on the edge of an economic miracle, where China was a couple of decades ago.
Miracle.
All they need to do is the right things. And in no time India could rise and get near the ranks of China. If you like this piece of content, then please share it with the world. Also, we would love to hear.
You know, it can move and reach there, but it's hard. It's hard. You know, these factors, all these points that have been pointed out, the problems that are, crippling India, they are huge. It's hard to, just solve all this overnight, like corruption, like population. It helps economy because there's always going to be demand of everything, right? But still, that can cause a rise in pollution, like what he just said, man. All those issues, they need to be solved, so it cannot be done overnight. And that's why even people in the comment section are saying you cannot compare India and China, because China is just way ahead, and to some extent, man, it's true. But I still think that India is moving at a pace that is steady, and I think they are doing all that they can to be better and just increase in whatever they can, honestly. And I mean, I'm rooting for India, man. Hopefully it gets better and everything will be solved. It cannot be done overnight, but maybe give them one more decade, 10 years, and it will work out. Tell me what you think, guys, in the comments. I'd really love to know what you think and what can be done to, better India and just move in the right direction. Much love to you guys. I'll see you next time. Take care. Peace.